Hi everybody, Jessie here from JessieBanks.com and welcome back to another video. So today what I am sharing with you guys is the palette I am taking to Mexico. So this is the outside of the palette. It's stained inside because I've used it and it was a cheap run. But I love the color and I've decided that this is what's going to go with me. I'm just going to pop actually all the colors out so that this is out of the way while we're swatching. And then I'm going to figure out how far in I can zoom in here to be able to swatch these, and that is probably as far as I can go. So we're going to go through every color I have here in my palette and swatch them all out. I have a couple of cups of water here. This one's dirty, obviously. This one's clean. I'm going to add a little more water to them just so that I know that I'm able to rinse things half decent at least. I guess that means I need a paintbrush. Jessie needs a paintbrush. I'll be right back. Okay, so for swatching here, I have a round brush. It's just a Zen number 6. A very inexpensive brush. I don't like to use my more expensive ones, at least, for swatching, simply because I don't want to cause any damage to them. So these are all still fairly soft because I have just poured them not long ago, so they're very, very liquidy. But we're going to start out here with Daniel Smith's Hansa Yellow Light. It's just going to take me probably a few tries here to figure out how much paint I need in order to give myself a decent swatch of these. And then I do like to feather them out so that I can see what they're like in a less, what's the word I'm looking for? I know the word. It'll come to me eventually. The next color is Nickel Azo Yellow, again from Daniel Smith. This is one you have seen in my custom palette for this year. It's a color I use all the time. It's actually one that's in the new mix for the quinacridone gold. It's beautiful. I love how dark yellow it is in its mass tone. Told you the word would come to me. And then it fades out into a really bright yellow in its lesser, more watered down. The next one here is Aussie Red Gold. This is a new favorite of mine. It is very, very orange in its mass tone, but it's another one that comes out to a very nice warm yellow as you get to the more desaturated colors. Quinacridone Gold, I have the original PO49. It's a color that I have multiple tubes of, so I haven't had to get the new version, like the Hue version, but I have a tube of it upstairs for a class I'm teaching in March, but we'll do a comparison of that when I crack into that tube. Next up is Daniel Smith's Perylene Scarlet. I usually don't have like a full-blown red like this on my palette, but I figured going to another country I'm going to end up wanting one. I better put one in here, and I had room for it, so this is Perylene Scarlet. It is gorgeous. Next up is one of my personal favorite colors. This is Quinacridone Coral. If you've watched any of my floral videos and painting videos, I tend to use this in almost everything. The next one is Quinacridone Pink. So this is a beautiful pink color. I really like it. It was between this and Quinacridone Red, but I went with pink. Quinacridone Rose, but I went with Quinacridone Pink instead. I think it's very, very pretty, especially in its mass tone where it gets really, really dark. It mixes into wonderful purples and things of that nature. Next up is Naphthalide Maroon. This is one I picked up when I was teaching out in London, Ontario a couple years ago for Craft and Kimmy stamps. This is one that Melanie Holtz had there that I decided I had to add to my stash because it works beautifully in skin tones. I also like it for a shadow color. Generally, it's a workhorse for me, and I use it a ton. Quinacridone Purple is the next one up. This is one of my favorite purples. All of the purples I have are cooler tone purples. I can mix warmer tones, purples very easily using the Quinacridone Pink. Even the Quinacridone Coral will make a little more moody purples. Carbazole Violet is a really dark, cool purple, which makes the quinacridone purple actually look warmer. It's beautiful. They're all beautiful. I wanted to take my whole collection of paint with me, but that's just not feasible. Especially if you've seen how much paint I have accumulated over the years. It's bad. Moon Glow is another one that everybody likes. This one separates into some beautiful tones. I really like having this one. I don't use it a whole ton, but the more I have it in my palette, the more I tend to reach for it. Especially once it starts to separate out and you can see the different tones or the different colors, pigments it has in it. French Ultramarine, this isn't one I paint with a whole ton normally, but I figured going someplace that I've never been and not knowing what type of colors I'm going to need when I'm actually just sitting and painting, I should probably put a color that is a staple in a lot of palettes in there, so that's why I went with that one. Phthalo Blue Green shade, this is one that's in almost every palette I ever make. It's a very pretty blue. It's definitely not one that you see like in nature or anything, but it mixes into some beautiful shades. Then I have Indian Throne Blue. Again, most of these colors are from Daniel Smith. I do have a couple that are Winsor & Newton in one core color, but for the most part, this is all Daniel Smith paints. So this is Indian Throne, which is a deep moody blue. Another one I like to throw in shadows and things like that. Winsor & Newton's Indigo. This is a color I have not painted with before, but I don't have an indigo in any other brand, and I wanted to take one, so I thought it was pretty. So I threw it in here. Let's see if I can get a little more gradation there. There we go. That's what I want to see. Computer's making noise. Then I took Sodalite Genuine. This one's pretty. It looks really dark right now, but that's because the paints are actually still very wet in their pans, but this one's pretty. It's almost like a neutral as opposed to a blue. And then Daniel, that's just binder that's separating. I'll mix it back in after. It was probably separating in the tube. Ugh, now it's ugly. Hang on. Let's fix this. Okay. I'll mix that in as soon as I'm done here, but this is Cobalt Teal Blue, so it's a cobalt color. I like cobalt. I use Cobalt Teal. I probably have one from almost every brand of paint I own anything from. It's a color I like to have, and I don't like to use a whole lot, but I'm bringing it along for the ride. Then Sleeping Beauty Turquoise. This is one I lusted over forever before I finally pulled the plug and bought it. And painting with turquoise just makes me feel like I'm important, even though I'm not. If that makes any sense. It's kind of like I don't know, it's a fancy color in my eyes, right? It's a very expensive color from Daniel Smith. There are definitely dupes for it. I like how it's very tealy and turquoisey, but it's definitely cooler than the Cobalt Teal Blue. If I hold it up, you can probably see that a little bit better. So it's definitely a cooler blue than the Cobalt Teal Blue, but equally as gorgeous. Now this is the new color from Daniel Smith for this year. This is a Phthalo Blue Turquoise. So it's more on the blue side than the Phthalo Turquoise, which is going to come next. And I actually have the three colors to compare it to on this palette, because I have Phthalo Blue Turquoise, which is the new one, and then this one is Phthalo Turquoise. So this one is a lot more green. And the other one's kind of the in-between. I haven't played with, actually in all the playing I've done with the new color, I haven't mixed the Phthalo Turquoise and the Phthalo Blue together to see if I can come up with anything close. But maybe one day we'll play with that. Next up I have Phthalo Green Blue shade. This is another one I just like as a mixing color. It's not one I paint with on its own. I always tend to mix it with something just because it seems like a very fake color to me. Which, it's not a fake color, but it's not something I see in nature. Sap Green. This one is one that I use all the time. It's again another staple in my collection. It's in every palette I make. I have all the colors here to be able to mix it, but I like having it as a convenience color just because I reach for it so much. Perylene green, this is a real dark green. A little more. These are a little hard to play with yet because they're too wet, or they're starting to soften or harden, but they're still too wet to really dig into. And then they're in a half pan while they're wet, and it's just not ideal, but I'll get the swatching done. Then I have Undersea Green. This is one I always like, and I've had it in palettes in the past and used it. And it's a very olivey, dirty green, which works wonderful when I'm painting foliage. These three together make a beautiful combination. Then I have a Burnt Sienna. This is one again that I use for mixing grays and things of that nature. It's a very warm brown. If you mix it with the French Ultramarine, which it's actually right across from, ironically, it'll do a really beautiful gray. And then the last one in this row is Sepia, which is a very dark brown. It's one, again, I use most of these colors quite regularly. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll swatch out the middle row because I have it on the back of this card because this card's going to fit inside of the palette. Okay, now we're on to the other side, which is the middle row. I just put it on the back so that I have easy, I didn't have to make them quite so small. So first off is Winsor & Newton's Yellow Ochre. I filled that pan almost perfectly. That'll never happen again. Never. It only happens once. Otherwise I make a mess. So you guys got to see the one time I filled a pan beautifully, because that's, yeah, just not something that happens to me. So there's Yellow Ochre. Then I have a Buff Titanium. These are what I use to mix skin tones. I am taking a bunch of stamped images along with me just because if I do what I think I'm going to do and lay on the beach, I'm going to need something to do. So, and I'll paint them on the airplane. So I'm taking these colors along with me as well. And I'm hoping that if I love this palette, I'll use it a lot. So I kind of put all of the colors that I put into my updated custom palette that I did not that long ago. But I'll link that up above here. And you guys can check that out if you want, but I think all of those colors made it into this palette as well. I don't think there's anything that didn't. And then this is a Naples Yellow, another one I use for mixing skin tones. I've never used it for anything else. It adds a lot of warmth to any type of skin tone. And then I have a Shell Pink, which adds some warmth to skin tones. I also like it in florals. This is from Shinhan's PW Professional Watercolor Series. It's a very opaque color, but I like it, so it's going in here. That was a weird accent. Next up is Hematite Burnt Scarlet. This one washes out in its mass tone like really dark. It's a very pretty brown, but it washes out into some beautiful peachy tones. It makes me so happy. And then I have Hematite Violet Genuine, so it's from the same family. This one just has the purple undertone. It's a lot darker or cooler of a color than the Burnt Scarlet. And it's got purpley undertones as compared to the peachy ones. And then last but not least, I put in Core's Payne's Gray. This one is a very blue Payne's Gray. I didn't plan this very well. This was a last minute addition. I forgot I even had a Payne's Gray. Normally I would have put it like up with these dark blues, but it'll work there. So that's that. Then the only other thing I wanted to have is I have a fairly large collection of designs from Rachel Beth Watercolors. I love her watercolors. They're absolutely beautiful. But I wanted to take the Toes in the Sand collection. So she's got Pink Shell, which is a lot pinkier than the Shell Pink, but anyway. Sandy Beach, Crashing Waves, and Deep Ocean. So I'm going to pull those out of here. There's Deep Ocean. This is Crashing Waves. Sandy Toes. Come on. And this one is Pink Shell. So I'm going to pull those out of this palette and take them along. And then I think I might also put in, out of the Thankful for Pie, the Caramel Pecan, just for a very neutral brown color. I'm sure I can make them, but that just makes my life easier. So let's pop these in here. So that is Sandy Beach. So I'm just going to put RB for Rachel Beth. Sandy Beach. Whoops, spelled that wrong. That's okay. Rachel Beth. Pink Shell. Rachel Beth. I might not be able to fit the last one in there. I think I only have room for 4. Hey, hey, hey. Get in there. And don't come out. Come on now. Oh, don't be like that. Just hang on a minute. Pop you in up here. Come on. Cooperate. I'm going to fight with these to get them in and clean it off, and I will be right back. Okay, so I didn't have room to put the 5th color in, like that Caramel Pecan one, so that one's going to stay at home. These can go to the side. And now let's swatch these ones on here so I don't have to take a separate swatch card. So this is Sandy Beach, which is a really like cool toned, fleshy type color. And this one is Pink Shell, which I find always stays slightly sticky. Now these colors are more opaque than the other things in my palette, including the Shell Pink from Shinhan, but I like them, so they might as well come and hang out with me and see if I use them. This is Crashing Waves. And last but not least is Deep Ocean. So now this palette, along with my Etcher sketchbook that I shared with you guys in my haul video that went up the other day, is what I am taking with me to Mexico to paint with. And when I come back, I will show you guys all of the things I attempted to paint. So thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you guys very soon in another video. Bye for now.